Hey y'all, from Spindle Mountain Mercantile. I am Heather. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is part of a collaboration about everything flowers. It's brought to you by the host Lady Red Crafting, Our Gray House, and the guest host is Sunflower Tasha DIY. At the end of this video, you can find a playlist of all of the other videos about everything flowers. Now let's get on with my video. Project number 1. Who doesn't love Ollies? Well, I guess if you don't know what Ollies is, then maybe you don't love it. But if you do know what Ollies is and you've been there, then you love Ollies. Not always, but sometimes Ollies has a pretty good crafting selection to choose from. That's what happened the day I found these wood blanks. I chose 3 of them to make 4 different projects. I'll be using Debbie's DIY paint products and Iron Orchid Designs rub-on transfers. For 3 of these projects, I'm using pictures from the IOD transfer book called Seed Catalog. This is a really good book for beginners to start with. It's only $21 and it has 8 pages full of different seed catalog pictures from way back in the day. To apply a transfer, you simply cut out the picture you want and place it on your project. Rub over it with your hand just to get it to kind of stick so it won't fall while you're rubbing it with your transfer stick. Some people tape it down, I don't. I just hold it with my other hand. You rub the entire surface with your transfer stick and you get one of those in every package of IOD transfers. When you're done rubbing the entire thing, simply grab one corner of the carrier sheet. That's the plastic that the transfer is adhered to in the book. You slowly pull back that corner with one hand, and with the other hand, right where it's coming up from the project, you rub the transfer stick. If any of it doesn't stick, go ahead and lay the transfer sheet back down and rub on that specific area, and then when you pull it up, it should be stuck. You might have to go over it several times, but if it doesn't, then you might have done something wrong, like maybe not wait for your paint to dry or maybe not clean the surface very well. When you're done, go ahead and burnish it. That's when you take the transfer sheet and you rub the entire transfer, and you rub it pretty good so that all the little bits and pieces stick and there's nothing popping up that might come off. Before I put this picture down, I went ahead and cut off some of the wording because it didn't quite fit inside the oval. But one of the really cool things about IOD transfers is you can layer them. I went ahead and put them back down wherever I thought they looked good and kind of balanced out, and you could still see them. You want to make sure you don't do this with really matching colors because it's hard to see them. But when one color is lighter than the other, you can go ahead and add that on top. Or you can put a darker one on top of a light transfer. Y'all, I was so nervous about this next part. I'm going to add black wax. I mean, it's black. It's not clear. It's not dark. It's not white. It's black. That was terrifying to me, but I've seen other creators do it and I thought, gosh, it looks so good. I'm going to try it. So I did a little test area and I thought, okay, this isn't so bad. And I just went with it. I don't know what the recommended way is, if you should just do a little area and then wipe it off and then do another little area and wipe it off. I decided to do the entire outside part of the round and then add some to the top of the beads before I wiped it. I thought maybe that would work better and not have it a whole bunch of different colors, you know what I mean? But you probably should read the manufacturer directions and find somebody who's been doing this a lot longer than me. But my point is, in showing you this, you can do it even if you don't know what you're doing. I love to do things that are imperfectly perfect. Once I start doing it, I just keep going. And I kind of figure even if it doesn't turn out right, that is the first step to getting to the project that does look good. That's where if I make a mistake, I can just go back and fix it and make something new. And a lot of times when I do that, I actually like the end project better than what was in my mind when I started and didn't know what I was doing. I really don't have a lot of rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. Right now at this moment, I'm not even thinking I'm going to go over the entire surface. I'm just kind of filling it in around the transfer, but you just watch me get bold. I thought, I'm kind of messing up and it's going on there. And maybe, well, I could just put it on the whole thing. I do wipe the brush off just a little bit before I put it on the wood on this part. I didn't wipe it off at all when I put it around the edges. Now the beads were so close together, I had to find a smaller brush, and I just took a whole bunch of wax and I mushed it in there with a brush that I didn't care very much about, which is really all of my brushes. I don't yet deserve good brushes because I don't take care of them. They're really, really super cheap. Debbie's DIY does sell a brush cleaner, and I have been able to recover some of my brushes. And one of these days, pretty soon, I'm going to be good enough at taking care of my brushes that I'm going to buy some good ones from Debbie. She has some amazing ones. I do have one I bought for her from her called The Perfectionist, and I'd love to have more. I had another one, but I lost it. Ugh. By the way, I sell Debbie's DIY products in my booth in Anderson, South Carolina at Centerville Pickers Market. If you can't get there and you want to buy some of her products, you can use a link she gave me, and she will give me a little bit of a thank you if you make a purchase through that link, but it won't raise your price at all. After I was done filling in all the spaces, I grabbed my towel and I just started wiping everything down. I did notice there was a few places where the wax didn't quite fill in, and after I started adding more, I thought, okay, this is from the manufacturer glue where they put the beads down, and so that's kind of why part of it didn't stick. But you guys, you can't even tell. Everything looks so good when it's done. It just looks like the whole thing is aged, and I love it. What do you think? Project number 2. Okay, I'm going to be really honest here. I love IOD. I try to only use IOD, but before I started selling IOD, I had some other product that I bought, and this is one of the leftovers. This is from Redesign, and I had 4 of these stamps left, and I decided to use them on this clear piece, and over the top of them, I'm going to use a little bit of some lavender that I have from IOD. I'm going to skip over this part. If you aren't sure of how to apply transfer, just go back to project 1 and you can watch that part again. I'm using the book called Painterly. This is the book that somebody stole parts of it from me in my shop. If you want to hear that sad story, you can watch my video called Why Do People Steal? So I had some leftover pieces. They only took the sunflowers. I used the lavender for this project. Some of them are really close together, and in that case, I cut out 2 of the stems at the same time and didn't try to take them apart. I put the tallest ones on the outside, and I did have to cut these down because they were too tall for this piece. For this plastic, it did take a little bit more rubbing to get the transfer off. Over the top of the other transfer, it went pretty quick, but I have this sped up to 5 times the original speed. I'm just measuring the next stems, and as I go in towards the center of the project, I'm making each one a little shorter. And you can see how that curves. I'm trying to make sure I put all the curves going inside. This was just one of the bottom pieces of the outside ones, and I thought it needed a little bit more floral. And I just kind of filled them in. I I was going to go over and explain each of these to you in great detail, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm going from tall to short. And if the pieces have, like where I cut them, have an odd piece of stem sticking out, I just cut that off. Now, on some of the stems in the book, they're touching the stem next to them. So in that case, I might just cut off a whole leaf. If I can't fussy cut around, cut right around the edge of a flower because there's a stem over it or something, I just cut off that whole flower and I butt the ends up together of the stem. Gosh, I hope that makes sense. But so far on this video YouTube thingy adventure, y'all have understood me pretty well. So you're doing great. Understanding the heather is not always the easiest thing to do. So right here, I lost my transfer stick, and I'm actually asking you guys where I put it. I thought I should do this live so you guys can tell me where my transfer stick is, because I'm always losing that thing. It's like scissors with me. I seriously have probably, I'm not exaggerating, I bet I have 30 of these laying around the house and the garage and the she shack and the storage and every place, and I can maybe find one sometimes. A lot of times I end up using my fingernail as a transfer tool. I had a lot of fun making this project. It was almost like therapeutic, like how a puzzle is. It just made me feel good to put all these pieces together, and when I got done, have this really pretty something to look at. I didn't have a way to hang this in a window to take a picture because it was just too hard to get the right light, but I did hang it up in front of my lamp. I just kind of held it up and it looked so pretty with the light shining through it. I think it would be good to display in a window. So what do you guys think about this one? I just think it's lovely. Just lovely.
What to say it with me sometime. I went to the therapist, now I'm fine. I don't know, but you give me good vibes. I met someone, but it made me sad. Many bad things and many lies.
Project number 3.
Didn't sleep well for a while.
I ended up with several of these squares and I love the beads, but how I like to display these, or how I like to make them, is to turn them so they're like a diamond instead of a square. People really eat those up in my booth. I don't know it. Some people might think it looks askew, but they sell really good. So note to yourself there, if you want to sell something that's a square, maybe make it a diamond. I guess diamonds are a girl's best friend, whatever. All right, so I'm using the seed catalog again, and this is one of the full-size pictures. Now, when I put it askew, all of the words don't fit. So I'm cutting out the words, and also I'm cutting out that yellow flower because it doesn't fit. And later I'll find another place to add it back in. I've sped this up to 2 times the regular speed, but you can see I'm hesitating here because I'm not sure which word I should cut. And some of them have like petals or stems coming down over them, so I don't want to cut those. I only want to cut the ones that are completely free from the flower, or if they are touching, they're not touching so much that I can't cut it to make it look like it's not attached to a stem or a flower or a petal. I did not clean the front of this. I didn't want any oil on it, or I didn't even want alcohol that dries. I just went with it, and I'll tell you what, it went on really well. Do y'all watch Sammy with Unicorn Dust Designs? If you do, then you know that she regularly says, "Do as I say, not as I do." Okay, so remember that Sammy said so. See where I laid that Syracuse down? Oh, I can't believe I did that. That's how easily this stuck to the wood. I didn't rub that or nothing. Oh my goodness. I was able to salvage the A and just a tiny part of the C, but that R, that was a goner. But I have a fix for it because you know why? Because I do stuff like that almost all the time. It's very frustrating, but it's a good way to figure things out in life. I'm like the Eagle Scout of fixing my mistakes in crafting. I'm the Eagle crafting scout. If I was stuck in the wilderness and had to only survive and make crafts with what was available in the wilderness, I would figure it out. Took that off and I tried to go with the grain so you couldn't see where I scraped it, and I went ahead and finished putting all of the other words on and getting all of the carrier sheet off. Here's a pro tip I almost always forget to do. Before you lay your transfer down, bend a corner of the sheet, and that way you can grab it because if it sticks to the wood, it's kind of hard to get with your fingernail. All right, for the fix, I used a regular black Papermate felt tip marker. So when I first started, I just barely dotted it on there because I didn't know at this point if that ink would bleed into the wood. And also, if I have little tiny dots, I have more control of what I'm doing than if I draw a continuous line. Now, that said, I actually have pretty good penmanship, so I probably could have just gone for it. This is a good way to do it, though, if you're not sure of your handwriting. And I don't have good penmanship because I was good in school. That's what people always think. No, no, no. It's because all I did in school was write Mrs. Heather so and so, crush of the week or the month. So I would write Heather loves Sean loves Heather loves Sean loves Heather loves Sean on every single line of my notebook. I got really good at penmanship, y'all. Now ask me a little bit about math. Mm-hmm. When I was done making all the dots, I went ahead and did a continuous line and I went back over every letter so that they would all look the same. And I think it turned out really well. What do you guys think? For the hanger, I really wanted to use the wood beads, but it just looked kind of wonky. So I decided to go with one of my plate hooks. I bought these on Amazon and they are amazing. They can hold some really heavy stuff. I'll leave a link for that in the description. And anything you purchase from Amazon by using my link to get there, they'll give me a little compensation, but it won't raise your price at all. Now look how pretty this turned out. I didn't do anything to that wood. I didn't seal anything. I didn't stain it. I did nothing. And I think it's beautiful. Project number 4. For today's last project, I'm using Debbie's DIY Cottage Color in the color Haint Blue. This is a 3-in-1 paint that includes the base coat and the sealer, so it has to be mixed really well, and I like to use this handheld blender. Now, I do also use this frother sometimes. It's rechargeable, so I can take it into the house or I can take it when we go on trips, but it doesn't do the great big cans. I got both of these on Amazon, and I'll leave a link for those in the description. I didn't wash this, but I did wipe it down, and then I'm just putting on the paint. And this is sped up a little. I am sloppy, but I'm not quite that sloppy. And I took a little brush to get it down in the crevice, and I only used one coat, you guys. This stuff is heavily pigmented and it goes on really well. I didn't have to use a sealer. There's a couple places I went back and like added a little stroke, but for all intents and purposes, this is one coat. Unfortunately, I did not video the process of adding the transfer. However, you can just go back to the project right before this and see how I did that. It was the same thing where I cut out the words. It turned out beautiful though, you guys. I love this paint and I love everything about this picture. You guys, I can almost always pick out a favorite, but I'm really having a hard time with these projects. I like all of them for different reasons. I like the black wax. I mean, you guys, black, it's black wax. Who would have thunk it, right? I can't believe it turned out that pretty. I had no clue. And the plastic, hanging that plastic up in a window would be so fabulous. And of course, I love the Haint Blue because I like everything blue or green. And the other square one with the seed packet, it's fabulous too. Anyway, if you guys like these, I hope you will give me a thumbs up for this video and consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure you go to my description and check out all the other videos in the playlist for this collaboration of everything flowers. Until you see me again next time, I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, I hope you are blessed. Bye.